Hi, everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Buer taking a look back at an important Kentucky Derby prep run on Saturday, March the 7th. This is the Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby at 1 1/16. A shocking upset in this race. We break from the gate. Keep an eye on the number 11, King Guillermo, going off at 49-1 and really hustled out of there by Sammy Camacho to get a good spot. I thought it was a really clever ride, utilizing this horse's speed from a tough outside post. And let's give this horse some credit. Once he is asked to settle down, he does so off a fellow long shot, Relentless Dancer.
Yeah, I think those things are all true, Dan. For a horse who, was nearly 50-1 in this race, he did a lot of good things in here. Not only did he use his, show that he could bring his turf speed, which he had in his prior two starts, over to the main track, but he really ran through the stretch as well. And this race got a pretty fast figure.
Near the back of the field is the number 7. That's your favorite, Sole Volante, the winner of the Sam F. Davis Stakes. And it looks like right here, Mike, he's moving very sweetly. The pace seems to be solid, and you get the feeling that it could be a carbon copy of the Sam F. Davis with an inside run.
Yeah, I think that's true. He does look comfortable at the back of the pack. You knew that he was going to sort of get this trip because he doesn't have a lot of early speed. And you're going to see him, I think, here through the second turn, Dan, he'll be behind horses, and his progress is going to get stopped a little bit. He's not going to be able to really improve. I thought he ran on fine through the stretch. He was never a threat to the winner. He was clearly second best, and I think it's worth noting that there's just no closing going on in this race. He's the only one who made up any significant ground in here.
I think you make excellent points concerning Sole Volante. You saw that his progress was impeded slightly. It's not like he checked or had to steady, but this is a horse that it looked like he was starting to build up momentum. He had to wait a little bit, and King Guillermo's flying in the stretch right now, just really drawing away. But we do see Sole Volante finish willingly on his own for second. I thought it was a good effort for the beaten favorite, and King Guillermo's race, I guess it came out of nowhere. I know he had run well on turf, but who knew that this son of Uncle Mo had it in him on the main track?
Yeah, not too many people knew. He was nearly 50-1 in here. His only prior dirt start came in his debut, and while he didn't run that well in that race, Dan, he really got bet that day like they thought he was going to run. After that, he really improved on turf, and he certainly brought his good race to dirt in the spot. I know he was a big price, and I know that there are, there's ways to look at this race and say, no closing. He got a great trip in here. All those things are true, but this horse really ran.
He got a fig as well, a 99 Beyer speed figure, by far his career best for this effort. Again, a $90,000 yearling buyback sold for $150,000 in April of 2019. This dam is a half-sister to Funny Duck, who won the Pat Day Mile a couple of years ago at Churchill Downs. Deep in the pedigree, lots of turf and distance, so I'm not worried about that distance standpoint from King Guillermo. Let's talk a little bit about Chance It, Mike. At 5-2, just seemed like a little bit flat in this race. This was Plan B. They wanted to run this horse in the Fountain of Youth a couple of weeks ago. They scratched because of post position concerns. Were you surprised that they took a hold of this horse coming out of the gate? Because we know he had speed and he could have gotten forward.
Yeah, I wonder what the plan was, actually. I think there is a point, if you go back and watch the replay, around that first turn, he just sort of got caught behind horses. I don't know if they were going to try and get forward with him anyway, Dan, but he did get caught behind horses. So maybe that just made them alter their plan a little bit within the race. After that, he was never a factor in here. I didn't think he ran terribly. He had to go wide on the second turn, even wider to the stretch. I thought he tried. I thought he did his best in here, even though he was no factor. I don't know if he's really a distance horse, Dan, but I don't think this was, a total disaster.
Let's talk about the Todd Pletcher train runners. Texas Swing, the number 1, finished 3rd. Market Analysis finished 6th. Texas Swing just had sort of an even trip. He was in behind horses. He really wasn't that far off of the pace, and he was running on a little bit at the end to finish 3rd. I guess he gained good experience from this race. Market Analysis was a little bit farther back. There just wasn't a lot of pop from him in the lane.
Yeah, Market Analysis didn't finish that hard. He got caught sort of over behind horses and off the pace early. Maybe that's not where they wanted to be. It was only his second start. I'm not going to be too hard on him. Texas Swing, I don't know. I thought he ran okay. I thought he got a really good trip. He was in a really good spot all the way around the track, in basically a full-out drive on the second turn, and just couldn't get involved. I was actually surprised he finished 3rd because on the second turn, it looked like he was going to start fading through the pack.
Spa City, Unrighteous, they dead heated for 7th. They were coming out of a maiden race at Gulfstream Park going 1 1/8 miles, where Spa City dug in to repel Unrighteous. Spa City was pretty aggressively ridden entering the backstretch. He wanted to get into a good position. It looked like he was there, but when the real running began, he was empty.
Yeah, he didn't have a great finish in this race. It was interesting to watch his ride, too, because I think they did want to be up on the pace with him. And it looked like at a point on the backstretch, like his rider really wanted to go up and challenge, but he just couldn't get there. He had a rival to his outside. He couldn't improve his. And after that, he just didn't run that well. Unrighteous, I mean, it was surprising that, that Pletcher would run a maiden in this race, and he was very wide basically every step of the way. I wouldn't be too hard on him either.
Here's the big question for King Guillermo, who of course gets plenty of points, is going to qualify for the Kentucky Derby. This was his first race of the year, only his 4th lifetime start. And after the race, the connection said, we're not going to run him again before the Derby. We're going to train him up to the race. It's going to be 8 weeks for King Guillermo just on workouts to get fit to go 1.25 miles. Juan Carlos Sevilla has proven to be a very sharp trainer, but this is a big, big test for this horse. This may not have been the strongest prep in the world. Baffert's bringing his Armada off a long, long layoff. King Guillermo has speed, and he's going to show speed likely in the Derby, but boy, it's an unorthodox training situation to be sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know how I feel about that stuff. I'm not on board with that kind of decision making with 3-year-olds, especially one as lightly raced as this horse is. I guess the other problem it sort of adds to the handicapping puzzle is you're just not going to know how good this horse is until he shows up in Kentucky. I mean, you could take this race at face value, I guess, if you want. I would prefer to see one more race out of him just to sort of get a real read on how good he actually is.
Any horse you'd particularly take out of this race? King Guillermo, obviously very impressive. Sole Volante ran his race. I thought that the others are behind those horses in terms of seasoning, in terms of quality. Sole Volante, I think you could look at him one of 2 ways. You could say he ran just fine and he's going to continue on the road. Maybe they'll train up to the race. Maybe they'll run one more time with him. Or you can say you can't lose to this horse.
I wouldn't take the second position just because I think the horse that won the race actually ran really well. I have no problem with Sole Volante. He's one of those horses who you just feel like, come the first Saturday in May, he's probably going to have a pace to run at, and that he will make a run into it. So I'm fine with him. And as far as the others go, Dan, I think there are some interesting horses in here. I don't necessarily like any of them as far as, Triple Crown kind of horses, but, the 3 Pletcher horses seem like they could be okay. I didn't think Chance It ran terribly. Spa City could turn out to be all right. There are some interesting horses in this race.
Do you think Chance It was exposed as mostly a one-turn horse? I know he's won around 2 turns against a very weak field. Do you think this was a race where maybe the connection should say, whoa, let's take a step back. We might have a nice 7-furlong miler. A race like the Allen Jerkins could be a race that they could point for.
Yeah, I sort of felt that way about him. Again, I didn't think he ran poorly in this race, but I don't think I would press on with him either.
King Guillermo paid $100.40 to win the Grade 2 Tampa Bay Derby. A shocking upset to be sure, and it looks like he's going to train his way up to the first Saturday in May.